I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am, an old woman in a small, peaceful apartment, sipping tea, with only the hum of the refrigerator for company. Alone, but not lonely. Sometimes, the people you raise, the ones you give your body, your time, your entire life for, they grow into strangers with familiar eyes. That's what happened to me. This is the story of how I became a burden in my own son's eyes, and how I walked away without a word, leaving him to knock on a door I no longer lived behind. It started 6 months ago. The day was bright, unusually warm for fall. I was in my home, moving slow, still recovering from surgery. I'd fractured my hip a few months back, and the healing had taken longer than expected. Curtis, my son, walked in without a smile. His words didn't begin with, "How are you, Ma?" or "Feeling better?" Just straight to the point, cold and clipped. "Look, I need to talk to you about something," he said. I smiled, trying to keep things warm between us. "Is it about dinner? I made that stew you like." He shook his head. No, it's not about food. It's about this living arrangement." That's when the pit in my stomach began to form. His voice had that careful tone people use before saying something that will hurt you, but they don't want to look like the bad guy. I listened in silence. "I've been talking with Jenna," he continued, referring to his wife, "and we both think maybe it's time you consider a home, somewhere they can look after you properly. You're not exactly easy to care for anymore." I stared at him, feeling something inside me crumble. "A home," I repeated, as if I didn't understand English. "Curtis, I am home. This is my house." He didn't even flinch. "Technically, yes, but you're not working anymore. You don't cook much. You rest all day. It's like we're babysitting you." That word, babysitting, was a slap. It hit harder than the fall that broke my hip, harder than losing my husband, because this came from my son, the boy I nursed through fevers, fought for in parent-teacher meetings, worked 2 jobs to feed, the boy I gave my everything to. "I gave up everything to raise you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You think because I'm sick, I'm less than?" He shrugged. "I think you're not contributing. And Jenna's pregnant again. We need the space. We need peace. Peace." That's what he called my absence. I said nothing else. I didn't cry in front of him. I just nodded. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, surrounded by the memories he wanted to clear out. Wedding photos, my late husband's guitar, the curtains I sewed myself, and slowly, without a sound, I packed a small suitcase. I left the spare key on the kitchen counter, folded my favorite shawl over my arm, and walked out with my dignity intact. No shouting, no guilt trips, just silence. I'd given him peace. 6 months passed. Now, I sit here, in this little apartment that smells like lavender and freedom. It's not much, but it's mine. There's a knock on the door. I already know who it is. I don't even have to look. "Mom," Curtis's voice calls out. "Please open the door. I didn't mean it like that. Mom, please." But I don't move. I let the knock echo into the quiet. Let him sit with the weight of those words he once said so carelessly. Babysitting, burden, not contributing. 6 months. That's how long it took him to miss me. But I wasn't missing. I was healing, building, thriving. Before I ever became a burden, I was something else entirely. I was the foundation, the glue, the woman who built a home from nothing but grit, prayer, and late-night tears. This house, the one I left behind without a sound, wasn't just some place I stayed. It was the dream I built for Curtis. When his father died, Curtis was only 12. It broke both our hearts. But I couldn't afford to fall apart. So, I didn't. I worked nights as a cleaner, mornings as a school lunch lady. Sometimes I slept in closets during shifts just to keep going. I paid that mortgage penny by penny until the house was fully mine. I told myself, one day this will be his. One day he'll understand. And for a while, it seemed like he did. He'd hug me after every school play, even if he only had one line. He'd leave me little sticky notes in the kitchen. "You're the best, Mom." I saved every single one. Even now, they sit folded in a shoebox at the bottom of my new closet. But things started changing the moment Jenna came into the picture. Now, don't get me wrong. I tried. Lord knows I tried. I welcomed her like a daughter. I helped plan their wedding, cooked for her baby shower, smiled through all the little comments. "Curtis doesn't like those old recipes anymore." Or, "Maybe we should do the nursery, your way, not your mom's." It was subtle at first. My cups rearranged, my spices moved, curtains taken down. Then my living room became her yoga studio. My garden? Too old-fashioned. Suddenly, everything I loved was labeled outdated, inconvenient, or not safe for toddlers. Still, I swallowed it, because that's what mothers do. But it wasn't until after my surgery that the shift became undeniable. I needed help. Not much, just some assistance getting around. But instead of tenderness, I got sighs. Instead of comfort, I got looks. You know the ones. Tight-lipped, impatient, like you're a ticking bomb they're stuck with. Curtis stopped asking how I was feeling. Jenna started making passive comments about stair lifts and care homes. I overheard them whispering once. Thought I was asleep on the couch. "She's going to ruin the baby's routine," Jenna said. "She's recovering," Curtis replied, weakly. "Well, we're not her nurses. I didn't sign up for this." That night, I cried in the bathroom with the tap running. The final straw came the week before I left. Jenna was standing at the sink, washing baby bottles, when she turned to me and said, "You know, maybe it's time we all face reality. You're not getting any younger. We need this house to function." Function, like I was furniture in the way. I remember nodding, quietly walking to my room. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and realized something awful. The house I built for love had become a place where I wasn't wanted, where I wasn't even seen. That kind of hurt, it's not loud, it's silent, cold. It drains you. So I made a plan. I called a former coworker whose daughter ran a small apartment complex. I found a place, tiny, yes, but with sun in the windows and no one treating me like an expired coupon. I cashed in a few savings bonds, packed only what mattered, and left while they were out. Not even a note. Not because I was cruel, but because they had already stopped hearing me. What good would a goodbye do when you were never truly seen in the first place? I left behind the family photos on the hallway wall, my rocking chair, even my wedding ring, because it belonged to the home I no longer recognized. I took my name, my peace, my pride. They didn't come looking for me right away. In fact, weeks passed. I heard nothing. But now he's knocking. Curtis is at my door, like the son I used to know. The one who made me breakfast on Mother's Day. The one who held my hand at Daddy's funeral. He's outside, calling me Mom, like it still means something. But I don't open the door, because something has shifted in me too. This isn't about revenge. This is about worth. And I finally remembered mine. It was the third day in a row he came knocking. The first day, I stayed seated. I didn't even flinch. The second, I turned the music up, let Billie Holiday drown him out. But the third day, he said something that made my hand freeze over the teacup. Mom, Jenna left. She took the kids. I don't know what to do. I didn't open the door, but my heart cracked. Just a little. I didn't move, didn't speak, just sat back down and let the words hang there, echoing in the room like a ghost I hadn't invited. I knew this day would come. Not like a psychic, but like a mother. The same way you can smell rain before it falls. You feel when things are coming undone. But part of me still didn't believe it. That night, I pulled out the shoebox, the one with the sticky notes, the ones with crayon scribbles and macaroni drawings that spelled, "I love you, Mommy." I held them in my hands and cried. Not because I missed him, but because I missed that version of him. The boy who saw me as a hero, not a burden. When the knock came again the next morning, it was softer. "Ma, please. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve to see you. But I need to talk. Just 5 minutes." I didn't speak. I didn't open. But I stood behind the door, hand hovering over the knob, heart doing battle with memory. I heard him slide down and sit on the floor. He started to talk. Not to me. At me, like maybe he knew I was listening through the wood and the silence. He told me Jenna left 3 weeks ago. Said she wanted space. Said she was tired of feeling like she was carrying everything. The house, the kids, the bills. Apparently, he had lost his job 2 months ago and was hiding it. Drinking at night. Sleeping on the couch. She found a message to an old flame and left without another word. And now, Curtis was alone. "I didn't know how hard it was," he said quietly through the door. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought pushing you away would make room for my family. I didn't realize you were part of it." I closed my eyes, let his words settle like dust in the still air. He kept talking. "You were right. About everything. I didn't see it then. I see it now. I see what I became. I was a coward, Mom. I let Jenna treat you like an inconvenience because I didn't want the fight. I didn't protect you, and I hate myself for it." There was silence after that. Just breathing. No sobbing, no drama, just pain. Real pain. But still, I didn't open the door. Because apologies, even honest ones, don't always grant access. Sometimes, they just confirm what you already knew, that someone was capable of better, but chose not to be. And here's the truth. I had forgiven him, long before he came back. But forgiveness isn't always an invitation. Sometimes, it's just a release. For you. And I wasn't going to be the Band-Aid he slapped on now that things were hard. The woman who packed her bags that night wasn't the same woman he left in the living room with a limp and a quiet voice. I had built something again. Not a house this time, but a boundary. And it was beautiful. 3 days after his apology, Curtis showed up again. But this time, he wasn't just knocking. He had flowers in one hand, grocery bags in the other. He even wore that old hoodie I got him in college, the one he said was his comfort armor, like he thought dressing up in nostalgia would make me open the door. He called out softly, "Mom, I brought your favorite tea. That lemon ginger you used to drink every night. I even made your spinach pie. Remember? I used the recipe from that little red cookbook." I stayed on the couch. He kept talking. "I cleaned out your old room. The house is quiet now. I thought maybe if you wanted to come visit, just visit. We could talk inside. You'd like it. I even put back your rocker." My chest tightened. That chair. He remembered that chair. But here's the part he didn't know. I didn't want the old room back. I didn't need the chair. I didn't need to go backward. Because after he left that first day, I had changed the locks. Not just here, in me. This place, my new little apartment, was mine. I had arranged the furniture how I liked, played music I enjoyed without judgment. I had my own garden out on the balcony, with little pots of basil and mint and tomatoes just beginning to flower. I'd even joined a book club with women who called me by name, not just Curtis's mom. I was more than his mom. I was a woman, a survivor, a whole person, and no amount of spinach pie was going to rewrite what had been said, or unsay what hadn't. That day, I opened the door, not to let him in, but to look him in the eye. He looked smaller, tired. His eyes had shadows I didn't recognize. "Hi, Mom," he said, smile shaking. "Curtis," I replied evenly, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. He handed me the flowers like a peace offering. I took them, but I didn't smile. "I just wanted to see you, to talk. I miss you," I nodded. "I hear that, and I believe you." He looked like he might cry. "I know I messed up." "You did," I said calmly. "You let someone else's comfort matter more than my dignity. You forgot who I was." "I remember now," he whispered. I sighed, not with anger, but with a kind of exhausted wisdom. "Curtis, remembering after the damage is easy, but protection is shown in the moment, not in hindsight." He blinked. "Are you saying you're never coming back?" I looked at him for a long time. "I'm saying I already did. I came back to me, and I'm not leaving her again." He looked down at his shoes, like a boy being scolded. But this wasn't about punishment. This was about consequence, about finally learning that some bridges, when burned, don't get rebuilt. They get redesigned, stronger, with better locks. "I still want you in my life," he said, barely above a whisper. "I know," I replied, gentle but firm. "But this time, it'll be on my terms." He nodded slowly. I stepped back, closed the door behind me, not in anger, but in choice. I stood in the silence afterward, heart steady. Outside, he sat down on the steps like he used to, when he was 7. And mad, I wouldn't let him stay up late. But this wasn't a bedtime argument. This was life, and I had found mine again. Inside, I put the flowers in water, put on my music, lit my candle. The locks were changed, and for once, I felt completely safe. The first call came from my niece. Sweet girl, used to braid my hair when she was 10. She didn't even say hello. "Auntie, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but what are you doing to Curtis?" I blinked, confused. "What do you mean doing to him?" "He's falling apart. He said you won't talk to him, that you shut him out like he's nothing. That's not you." I smiled bitterly. Oh, now people remembered who I was. "Darling," I said, calm and slow, "I raised that boy with every ounce of strength in my body. I worked myself into sickness, and when I needed care, he called me a burden. That isn't me either, but that's what he made me feel like." She was quiet for a moment. "But families forgive. Families also protect, and when they don't, you have to protect yourself." She sighed. Then the line went dead. The next day, I got a text from Jenna's mother. A full page. Passive-aggressive poetry. "It's a shame when elders forget their place. Children grow up and have lives. You're not entitled to be the center of it all." I laughed. The woman who'd never called when I was recovering from surgery. Never asked if I needed groceries. Never thanked me for the wedding gift that paid their rent for 4 months. Now she had an opinion. It didn't stop there. Curtis's sister called from Florida. Said I was holding a grudge and damaging the family legacy. Legacy? What legacy? The one where the matriarch sacrifices everything and gets handed a thank you card once a year. Where love is measured by usefulness. No, thank you. So I sat down that night and wrote letters. Not to them, but to myself. One to the girl who married at 19 and thought love would fix everything. One to the woman who raised a son alone and never asked for anything in return. And one to the version of me who stood up from that couch, packed her bags, and chose herself. I told them all, "You are enough. You were always enough." Curtis kept texting. I didn't block him, but I didn't respond either. Not yet. He needed to feel the quiet. Really feel it. Because sometimes, silence is the only way people hear the noise they made in your life. I wasn't being cruel. I was being clear. For decades, I was the family's rock, the cook, the cleaner, the therapist, the backbone. But no one thought to ask me what I needed, until I stopped asking them for anything. Now they noticed. Now, the calls came daily. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being the villain in someone else's story. Because I finally understood. You can love people and still walk away from them. You can miss someone and still know they're not safe for your peace. You can forgive and still not invite them back into your life. And that doesn't make you bitter. It makes you healed. It was raining, not a soft drizzle, the kind that paints the sidewalks and smells like renewal. No, it was heavy, relentless, like the sky itself was trying to apologize. I was making soup, real simple. Onion, garlic, lentils. The kind you stir slow when you're thinking too much. I had jazz playing low. The window cracked just enough to let the smell of wet pavement in. Peace. Then came the knock. I didn't need to look. I knew. But something felt different. No groceries in hand. No flowers. No guilt in disguise. Just silence after the knock. I waited. Then I heard it. His voice. Raw. Small. Almost unrecognizable. "Mom, I'm not here to fix anything. I'm not even here to ask you to forgive me. I needed to say something. For real this time." I stood still. I know I broke something. Not just between us, but in you. I made you feel disposable. And I don't know how I can ever make that right. But I realized something the other day. He paused. Rain still falling. Soft thunder in the distance. I realized you weren't the burden. I was. You gave your whole life to raising me. And when it was my turn to lift you, I dropped you. I dropped the one person who never once let go of me. I thought providing was love, but love is presence. And I was never really there. He took a shaky breath. I've been seeing someone. A therapist. First time in my life. I'm trying, Mom. I'm not asking to come back into your life. I'm just hoping that someday, maybe you'll let me know you're okay. The silence that followed was the kind that hums, the kind that holds weight. I didn't open the door, not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to. He had finally said what I thought I'd never hear. Not just, "I'm sorry," but "I understand." And you know what? That was enough. I walked to the door, leaned my forehead against it, not to speak, just to let him feel me there, not as his mother, not as the woman he abandoned, but as the person who found herself after he let her go. He whispered one last thing before leaving. "I hope you're happy, Mom, truly. You deserve everything." I waited until I heard his footsteps fade, and then I went back to my soup, back to my music, back to my life. Curtis finally understood, and while that didn't change the past, it made the future feel a little softer. Maybe one day we'll sit at a table together again. Maybe not. But for now, I'm good. It came in the mail. A thick cream envelope with gold edges and my name written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. Natalie's, my niece. The same one who called me weeks ago, full of concern for Curtis. This time, her words weren't through a phone. They were written in ink. Inside was a formal invitation, folded, ribbon-tied, and smelling faintly of jasmine. Family reunion, for all branches, all roots, all stories. A backyard gathering, No speeches, no dress code. Just come as you are. And at the bottom, a handwritten note. We miss you. No pressure. But your chair will be there, if you want it. I stared at it for a long time. Something about seeing my name in that graceful handwriting made my chest ache. Not from sadness, more like a bruise healing. I put the invitation on the counter, made tea, cleaned my little balcony garden. But the letter sat there, watching me. The truth is, I didn't know what I wanted. Part of me felt like going would be betrayal. Like I'd be erasing the pain, the hurt, the nights I sat alone with swollen eyes, in silent prayers. But another part, the part that had healed, just a little, was curious. What if this wasn't about them? What if it was about me, showing up for myself in a place that once told me I didn't belong? The morning of the reunion, I stood in front of my closet and touched the fabric of a soft blue dress I hadn't worn in years. The last time I wore it, I'd been happy, laughing with friends, dancing to Motown at someone's retirement party. That version of me, she'd been asleep for a while. I missed her, so I put on the dress. I didn't call ahead. I didn't text anyone. I just showed up. The backyard was full of life. Children running barefoot, music playing, someone grilling in the corner. And at the very back, a folding table with an empty rocking chair beside it. Mine. People turned as I walked in. Some smiled, some froze, some whispered, but none of that mattered, because one person, just one, got up and walked toward me, slow but steady. Curtis. He looked different, older, softer, like a man who'd been doing the hard work inside himself. He didn't say anything at first, just opened his arms. I let him hug me. It wasn't a dramatic movie moment. There was no orchestra swelling in the background, just two people in the middle of a second chance. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said into my shoulder. I wasn't sure either, I whispered. He stepped back and looked at me. You look at peace. I am, I said, and I plan to stay that way. He nodded like he understood. And, for once, I believed him. We didn't talk about the past that day. We didn't need to. Instead, we sat in folding chairs, passed potato salad, and watched the kids chase bubbles across the lawn. And when the sun started setting, he reached over and said, "Thanks for giving today a chance." I looked around at the laughter, the light, the life. "Thanks for finally seeing me," I replied. Because sometimes, healing doesn't mean returning to what was. Sometimes, it just means showing up, for you, in the places you were once unseen. I wake up early now, not because I have to, but because I want to. There's a quiet joy in mornings when no one's asking for anything. No demands, no raised voices, just the hum of the world waking up slowly. With grace, I sit on my little balcony with a cup of coffee, 2 sugars, splash of cream, and I watch the sun rise over the rooftops. It creeps in soft, golden, warm, like it's apologizing for all the hard days it used to light up. And I forgive it, because this new life, it didn't come easy. It was built, brick by brick, in the silence of old wounds closing, in the echo of unanswered calls, in the stillness of learning to love my own company. The apartment is small, but it's mine, every inch of it. The throw pillows are the colors I like. The art on the walls isn't expensive. It's handmade, thrifted, full of stories. The kitchen smells like cinnamon and cardamom most days. I bake now, not for anyone else, just because I like the way it makes my place feel like home. I joined a garden club, a little one, just a handful of women who meet on Sundays and swap cuttings and secrets and jokes over lemon water and brownies. They don't know my whole story, but they know enough to greet me with smiles that don't ask questions And I started writing again. Just little notes to myself, letters I never send, poems about the way grief can look like a ghost or a garden, depending on the light. I still think about Curtis, but the thoughts don't hurt anymore. They don't sting. They land like feathers now, soft and distant. We text every now and then. No pressure, no weight, just two people learning how to speak in new ways. He asks me sometimes how I'm doing, really doing, and I always tell him the truth. I'm good, because freedom isn't loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It just settles in, slow and sweet, until one day you realize this is what peace feels like. This is what it means to belong to yourself. No more shrinking, no more tiptoeing around other people's comfort, no more giving from a cup that's bone dry. Now, I pour from fullness, and every morning, with that coffee in hand and the sunrise in my eyes, I whisper to myself, "You made it," and I smile. It's been 6 years. The apartment is still mine. The balcony garden's bigger now. Jasmine, rosemary, even a fig tree in a deep clay pot. I named it Grace. She bends in the wind, but never breaks. I'm older, softer in some ways, sharper in others. My hair's more silver than dark now. I don't dye it. I earned every strand. Curtis visits sometimes. Not often, just enough. The first time he brought his daughter, my granddaughter, I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, I held her like a prayer and whispered the kind of love I wish someone had whispered to me. Her name is Elena. She's got the kind of curious eyes that ask questions even when her mouth stays quiet. She calls me Grandmama, like a song. She doesn't know the whole story. She doesn't need to. She just knows that when she comes over, there's always warm cookies, a soft blanket, and someone who listens without interrupting. One day, she asked, "Why do you live alone, Grandmama?" And I smiled. "Because I love my own company, and it took me a long time to learn how." She nodded, like that made perfect sense, like solitude was something noble, something to look forward to. I hope she remembers that. Curtis and I, we're not perfect, but we're something honest. He never makes excuses anymore. He shows up when it matters. He doesn't try to fix things. He just lets things be. That's enough. Sometimes we sit on the porch, both holding mugs, silence thick with understanding. And he says things like, "I still don't forgive myself, Mom. But I'm grateful you forgave life enough to let me back in." And I tell him, forgiveness wasn't for you. It was for me, so I could breathe again. That's the truth. Because healing isn't about the happy ending. It's about the middle, the messy, quiet moments when you decide, over and over, to rise instead of resent, to choose yourself without shame. Elena will grow up in a world where women don't have to wait to be broken before they're allowed to start over. That's my legacy, not survival, reclamation. So, when she's older and the world tries to teach her to disappear inside someone else's expectations, I hope she remembers her grandmama, who once walked away with nothing but a suitcase and came back to herself with everything.